Today we're on the island of Mykonos in Greece. It's quite a bit further west of Rhodes, where we were yesterday, but it's on our way to Kuşadası, Turkey, which will be our next stop. But we've been in Mykonos before, so today we decided, we took a water taxi in from our ship, which you can see in the distance over there, and got on an express to the island of Delos, which is a famous archaeological site. In Greek mythology, it was the birthplace of Apollo and Artemis. And in its heyday, it was a really big deal. It was a bunch of temples and auditoriums, lots of houses, people lived there. So it's going to be probably a little bit like some of the other archaeological sites that we've been to, like Herculaneum, or I can't think of the other's name. I'll think of it. Well, we had a pleasant boat ride over here from Mykonos, and we made it to Delos. Already looks interesting. We're just sitting here waiting for the tour groups to clear, and then we'll get a ticket and go look around inside. There's quite a few excavations still ongoing here. This was over 3,000 years ago things started to happen here. And then it was a big deal for about 700, 800 years. It was part of the Delia alliance, which was the beginnings of Greece. It was an alliance that 150 Greek cities that are aligned to protect each other from the Persians at the time. It's kind of a long and complicated history here. This was, as I said earlier, mythological birthplace of Apollo and Artemis, who apparently were twin gods. I didn't know that, but that's what the sign said. So it was a place that important people came to build temples to the gods, all the way from the Greek Hellenistic states, which included Macedonia, apparently. That Philip V, king of Macedonia, before Alexander, came and built a big temple here to Apollo. So after that attack, the city continued to be inhabited, but on a much smaller basis. It was inhabited into the Middle Ages. Then it was completely abandoned, and what started happening then was people from the nearby islands, the growing cities, would come here to loot building materials, which is why a lot of these buildings are only half left. Only half of them remain. So this was the main road leading from the North Port, which I think we're going to get to right over there, which is where most of the boats would have come in, to the main sanctuary that we saw earlier, the big Apollo temple. It's these lions here line the main road. Most of the people around here had never seen a lion, so they were quite amazing sculptures for them to see. There was originally between 10 and 20 of these things here. Some of them were looted, broken, but some of them are still here. There is one that was picked up by the Venetians and is now in Venice, Italy. If you go to the right spot in Venice, you can see it there. Jeannie just read on a sign that these lions that are here are actually replicas. The originals were taken to museums to preserve them. To the museum to preserve them. So this overgrown area inside of this rock wall here was at one time a sacred lake. It's apparently they just I don't know what happened with the water. The port is back over there somewhere over that hill. So I don't know if this was fresh water or salt water, but it's filled in with trees now. Now we're in the museum. This part of the museum is called the Archaic Room because these statues are from the heyday of Delos, which was almost 3,000 years ago. These are very, very old statues. 6th century BC. That one actually looks a little bit Egyptian. Temple of Hera statues there. A statue of a Sphinx. That's interesting. So the Sphinx was a mythical creature, the body of a lion and wings and the head of a woman. And it was sacred and generally placed in sanctuaries like the ones here. So here are the actual lions of Delos. I wasn't sure which museum they were talking about, but they had moved them to, but it's right here on the grounds, so you get to see the actual ones. And like I said before, the ones that are out in the yard still are replications. This room is all statues of gods. This one here, there's 3 in a row that are Hermes. This one's probably the best preserved of the lot. These are statues of muses from the theater. That was something they always had in Greek theaters. A source of inspiration. This is Apollo from the temple, and this is Aphrodite. Both from about the 2nd century BC. A statue of Poseidon. He usually is depicted holding a trident, but they must have gotten lost. This room is a little bit later, actually during the Roman period. That's Mithridates over there, who was famous for fighting the Roman Empire. He's the guy who came here and massacred like half the population of the city. The rest of these are from 1st century BCE. Gallius Ophelius Ferus, a wealthy merchant, had a statue made of himself. These are some wall paintings preserved from some of the houses in Delos. They look a little bit like some of the stuff you'd see in Pompeii, so they were fairly well preserved. That's a statue of Heracles. God, they prayed to him for safe passage, I think, across the seas. These are fairly well preserved. Paintings from the sides of some of the houses. But the horse is still very recognizable. Well, as you can see, this place is enormous. It's a very large city in its heyday. It's not as well preserved as some of the other ruins that we've seen, but it's got some interesting aspects. Herculaneum and Pompeii had the benefit of being buried in ash, so they were never looted. The city of Ephesus in Turkey is actually a little more intact than this too, but it was largely forgotten in the Turkish countryside, and so it wasn't looted nearly as much. It was kind of buried under sand. I'm walking up into the other section of town here. I'm going up to the theater. These are much more intact over here. You can actually see the layout of the houses. And some of them have a couple of rooms, bedrooms with doors in between them. It's much easier to imagine what they looked like years ago. So this would have been the original walkway here. And up there should be the theater. Okay, this is called the House of Dionysus. I'm not sure why. It's probably a temple to Dionysus. One of my favorite gods. He was the god of wine and partying in the woods. It's always an interesting part of Greek mythology. There's still a mosaic intact on the floor here. It's they should probably try to preserve that from the weather. It's a fairly intact couple of walls here. I'm guessing that since this is just further away from the old port, it was just harder to loot things from here than from the other end of town. That's probably why it's still got quite a bit of structure. Our final stop here is the theater. This was originally constructed out of wood in about 300 BC. They started building the stone version of it. It's crumbled quite a bit since over the years, but still got some of the original stones intact. This is called the House of the Trident, I guess because of that mosaic on the floor there. Appears to be a temple. And it looks like they've recreated some of it too. I don't think those are original columns. And certainly that cement lintel on top is not original. Well, I found a plaque about the House of the Trident, and that was just a lavish house of a very rich person. It's just called the House of the Trident because of the mosaic. So the last section that we just went through that's still relatively well intact is called the Theater Quarter. And it was the most expensive area of the city. Even Cleopatra had a house there. So it's for the rich and famous.